Hello, I'm Mark, and welcome to part 2 of my Unreal Engine tutorial on how to manage your character's core vital data within your game. In part 1, we built out our core vitals component in C++, as you can see right here. And in part 2, what we'll do is we'll take this component that we've created here, and we'll go ahead and implement it within our character's blueprint. So let's do a quick little recap. So in part 1, we first defined out what a core vital is, what its data attributes are, under a property, and how we want to interact with those data attributes, through these various methods attached to our structure here. Then we kicked it up one to define what a set of character vitals are. So we created another structure called character vitals. We then defined which vitals we were interested in: health, stamina, energy, and sustenance. And then from there, we also added some metadata values at the character level to determine whether this character, is it protected, essential, are we in a simulation mode, is the character dead, and the generation time, and how often we want to update this any of this vital information. And then lastly, we went up and created our actor component. We call this core vitals component, and we defined what it's going to be manipulating, which is our character vitals. We created some internal game rules that we might want to have that can interact between the vitals, and then we created some, and we made all of that protected. And then under that, we then created our public implementation methods. So we've got our getters and setters so that we can get and set from a save system, which we'll show you how to do when we implement within the blueprint. Our start timer, and then we had our facade or service functions to allow us to manipulate the data, and we used a nice little core vitals enumerator to allow us to just keep things nice and clean and minimize the number of actual functions that we needed within this method, within this class. And then we just created some additional little getters and setters to manage our metadata values on our core vitals. So that's what we did in part 1 of the video. And if you haven't seen part 1, there's a link to it in the comments below. And I recommend you take a look at that. But now, part 2, we're just going to go ahead and implement this within our blueprint. So I'm going to go ahead and just take that down. So here we are in our project. So what we're going to do is, first off, we're going to go ahead and add the components to our third person. So as you can see right now, oops, I already added that. So I'll just go ahead and take it out, show you how I did that. So all we have to do here is come up to components, hit add, and just type the name of our component, and we call it core vitals. So there it is, core vitals. We can give it a name if we want, but for this demo, we'll just keep it that way. And as you can see over here, so when we defined our data structures, we created some nice little categorizations to keep things nice and make it easier for us to find the data. And so as you can see right now, health, stamina, energy, and sustenance, they all have the same defaults. But we will go ahead and change this information when we're ready to actually start running this. But as we saw in part 1, we need a way to output this information so we can kind of see what's going on. So to do that, we will create a quick little HUD with a core vitals widget there so we can see this data moving in real time. So to do that, let's go down to our content drawer. To keep things nice and neat, we will create a new folder called UI. And within that, we will create 2 little widgets, user interface widgets. So we'll come down here, user interface, we'll come down to widget blueprint, and the first one will be the component, which will have our progress bars in there. We'll make that one first. WBC, we'll call this, we'll call this player vitals, and we'll pop that open. So within here, what we'll need to do first off when we come into here is we will need to get a canvas panel. So we will go ahead and find the canvas panel and drag and drop that down to here. So now we have a canvas panel to put our widgets on. Compile and save. Next up, we'll want to create some kind of a structure for our widget to be held in. So to do that, what we will then do is we will create a horizontal box, and then within that horizontal box we'll put two vertical boxes and a spacer in between, just to kind of give it a nice look and feel on the layout. So let's come up here, let's go horizontal box, and we'll park you down there. And while we're here, let's go ahead and get the vertical box. We'll get vertical box 1 and put that in the horizontal box. We'll get vertical box 2, put that in the horizontal box. Oops, no, horizontal box. And then we'll go ahead and put a spacer there. And we'll put that there so that we can provide a little bit of space. Now what we'll also do is I'm just going to come up here and go to design on screen, which will make this a little bit smaller for now. So now we've got our structure. Let's start putting some things in there to help us define what we have. So under here, under this one, we will go ahead and put our labels. So we'll go ahead and say text, find our text box. So we'll go ahead, let's go and define the first one, and then we can then clone those. So we'll say that, we'll give it a name. This will be our health. So we'll hit that, we'll hit save. And to do that, make it look nice and pretty, we'll go ahead and do that and that. So what we've done is we'll just write a line horizontally and vertically, and this is all under our slot, the slot vertical box slot. So we'll go ahead and do that. That's there. Then let's go ahead and see about a size. I think 24 is a little too big, so we'll bring that down to 14, make it a little smaller, hit save, and since this is so small, we'll go ahead and zoom in a little bit. So there's our health. It's sitting in a box. We've got it horizontally and vertically aligned. I'm just going to check my other solutions, see if there were any other things that I did there. I don't think so. I think we're good. So from there, let's go ahead and just duplicate this. So I'm going to hit Control D, Control D, and Control D since I need 4 of them. And so this one is going to be our stamina. And this one is going to be, I guess, sustenance. And lastly, this one's going to be our energy. And I'm going to hit compile, save. So now what we've got is, we've got all 4 of those labeled. Now it looks like I need to go and create some spacing for this widget. So let's go, I'm going to kick this back up to the horizontal box, and we need to create an X and a Y size. I think 400 on the X axis looks good. And let's give it, let's try 92. Yep, that looks like it's going to fit. Make sure we spell energy right. Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and hit save, compile, save. All right, so now that we've got the labels, let's go ahead and do the same thing for our progress bars. So to do that, we're going to create, we'll go ahead and find the progress bar. So there's our progress bar 1. We'll come down, we'll put this under vertical box 2. So there it is. We will go ahead and set this to, instead of auto, we're going to go fill. And we're just going to go there and there. Hang on. Yep. We want that auto. And we want that No, we want that. Sorry, my mistake. Let's make sure we got the right one selected. There we go. Fill and fill. And why is this? This vertical box needs to be resized. Yeah, we want to let that one fill out too. Fill and fill. So now what we've done is we just filled those. And let's go ahead and just configure this. Let's give this a name, since this is going to actually no. Let's not do that. It's the progress bar which needs a name. So we'll go PG. I'll call this PG health bar. It's just how I like to name things. Put a little prefix so I know what and they will mean something to me. So PG health. We'll give this a nice color. Health. Yeah, most games would be like red is health. So we'll just go ahead and do that. Nice red. Hit OK. So that's red, and let's see, percentage. We'll go ahead and put that 70 just to make it look nice and neat. 0. Oh, that's right, yeah. 0.7. Okay, so that's our health. And we will create the binding. We'll go ahead and create these bindings. We want to create the bindings on the percentage. So we'll go ahead and just create that binding while we're here. Hit save. And that took us to the graph. We'll come back to the designer. So let's go ahead. I'm just going to go ahead and hit D, D, D. And we'll go ahead and just change this. So this is going to be, instead of health bar, well, this is our stamina. So stamina bar, yeah, we'll make this one green. So we'll go 0, 1, 0. That's a nice green color. And we will go ahead and set the bind. So we don't want to bind to health. We want to create a new binding, which will be our binding to stamina. Save, and we will add this information in once we're ready. Once we've done the design work. So here, I think we said this was going to be. I was going to make this a kind of a bluish color. So yep, well, that looks good enough for me. Hit OK. This is going to be sustenance. Something like that. And we'll create a binding. Hit save, compile, go back to the designer and do one more. And this one is our energy bar. So let's go ahead and just do that. And let's see, we can make this, you know, let's just make this sort of like a mauve color. Hit OK. Look. There we go. Hit OK. Energy bar and back on percentages. Go ahead and create a binding. So now we've got our 4 bindings. Let's go ahead and hook all of this up to our component, which is sitting in our character class. So let's go to our designer. So first off, we'll go to the event graph. Here we're just going to need the event construct. We don't need the pre-construct, and we don't need anything on tick since we're binding directly we're using bindings. We don't need to worry about the tick. So the first thing we're going to do is let's go ahead and get the character. So get player character. So we'll run this and we'll go ahead and cast to our BP third person character. And that's all we have to do there. I'm just going to go and put that up there. And if this is a successful cast, which it all should be, we'll go ahead and create a reference to it. So I'm just going to go ahead and just shorten this. That way we know what this is. That's our character reference. So now we've created that. So when on construct, we'll go ahead and get this reference to our player character. Next we'll go back to the designer. Nope, we don't need to go to designer. Let's go ahead and straight into our progress bars. So the first one was our health progress bar. So here it is. And so then all we need to do here is we just need to go ahead and get our character reference, get character reference. And what we'll then do is we will then we'll go ahead and do an isValid. Since it's a pointer, we want to make sure that the pointer is valid before we try and access it. It's just good programming practice to check your pointers. And then we'll go ahead and say, go ahead and get our core vitals component, which is on the character. And from there, since this is health, we're going to say get %, which is the function that we have. And since this function is, so this will return our the percentage of health and make sure that the enumerator that we're putting in is set to health. So by default it's health. So good. That hooks that up nicely. So let's go and do the same thing for stamina and sustenance and energy. So what I'm going to do, just to save some time, I'm just going to go ahead and just copy all of this, since it's just the same thing over and over and over again. And we're just going to go grab it. We'll just go ahead and say check for validation. If it's valid, we're good. Put that there. And then since this is stamina, we will link that to stamina. Same thing for sustenance. Go ahead, if valid. I suppose we could also do a validation check on core vitals too, but we'll assume it's there. And one more, which will be for energies. Energy, so just double check our work. So energy, sustenance, stamina, health. Okay. Put you back up there. Yeah. Okay, so let's go back to the event graph. Windows tools, bring the details pane back. So that all looks good. That looks good. So all the bindings are done. All right. And that looks good. So that should be our component. So I'm just going to go ahead and so now we need to create a HUD for our component to live in. So we're just going to come up here. We're going to create a new. Actually, no. I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to user interface again. Create a new blueprint widget, and we'll just say user widget WB HUD, and we'll pop this up. So once again, we'll need a canvas panel, and we'll attach that. And now let's go ahead and find our widget, and we'll drag you onto the canvas panel. So right now by default it's dragging us and putting us up there, but we don't necessarily want it up there. So first off, let's go ahead and reset our anchors. So I'm just going to go move the anchor for our widget down there, and so then what I'll do is I'll hit shift, and then I'll go ahead and do the same thing and hit control, which will move our anchor down, and then we'll just grab our widget component and just move it, say let's just move it right there. So that gives us an X position of 56 and a Y position 16. Why not? Hit compile, save, and that just pretty much puts the widget on the HUD, and that's all we need to do for the HUD. So let's go ahead and implement our UI within our player character. So I'm going to come up here. We're going to go to begin play. We don't need the other two, which was tick and overlap for this example, so we're just going to do that. I'm going to say create widget. We're going to go select our widget, and it's just going to be the HUD widget. We're going to say get player controller, so we'll get the controller and we'll make this the owning player of that widget. And then what we'll then do is we'll then say, we'll take that and say add to viewport, which will add our widget to the viewport. So we'll hit compile, save, and what we'll do is we'll just move that over there, and let's just go ahead and hit play, and there you go. We have our widget in there, and look, it's hooked into our core vitals, and it looks like it's working. So that's all set up. So let's go ahead and configure our data within our core vital. So we have health, stamina, so we can make sure that these things are working independently of each other. So let me just pull up my example and see what values I was using. So we have current health 70, we'll keep that there. Generation is 0.2, we're going to make this 0.1, and we will then set that. Okay, that can all be saved. Stamina, well, let's make stamina, we'll start that off at 50, and that can also be put at 0.1. Nope, 0.1. I'm going to hit compile, save. Then we'll move down to, actually no, let's make stamina 0.3 instead. Make it run a little faster. So start at 50, it's at 0.3, looks good. Let's go to energy next. So energy, we're going to go ahead and set this to 0.02, so we'll move a lot slower. And we will start energy at, yeah, we can start it at 70, yeah, 70's there, 70's good. Yeah, let's start it at 60, just a little difference. And then sustenance, we'll start this at 30. and we will then set this one to go at 0.05. So they'll all be running at different rates based on the rules that we have in our vitals management component. So let's go ahead and we'll just move us off to the side, come back to here, and let's go ahead and hit run. And as we can see, the data is moving at different rates. Stamina is moving a lot faster than health. Our sustenance is coming down, and our sustenance is moving a lot faster than our energy, but slower than our health and slower than our stamina. And then hopefully when our sustenance gets down to, say, 0, we should see our health start to decline. And there it is, our health is starting to decline. So let's go ahead and stop that. So that's all working. So let's go ahead and add some debug keys just so we can continue to test out our component to make sure that it's doing everything that we want it to do. So to do that, we'll just go ahead and create some debug keys. I'm just going to go ahead and so we'll create debug key 1, and on debug key 1 we will then take our core vitals component. We're going to go ahead and say we'll run a decrease on the current. So when I press it, we will decrease our current. Let's just keep this nice and neat. We'll say health, and every time we press it, we'll decrease our health by 20. Let's do the same thing. Our debug. We'll use debug key 2, and we'll do the same thing. We'll run a decrease. We'll just copy and paste that. And we'll change that to stamina. And whenever we hit this, I'm going to decrease stamina by maybe 40. Next up, let's do some increases on the things that are decreasing. So let's go create debug key 3. And we'll want the core vitals component. We will want to then run an increase current. And we will say this is going to be our sustenance, and every time we hit this key, we'll jump it back up by 40. This is kind of like us eating food. And debug key 4. Let's go ahead and just copy this and paste it down here, and we'll make this energy, and every time we hit this we will increase it by, let's say 25. It's a good number, so let's do that. So that will go ahead. So let's go ahead and check to make sure that all works. So we'll just go move you over to the side, come back, hit play, and as you can see, our health is going up, our stamina is rocketing up, our sustenance is coming down, and our energy is coming down. If I hit the 1 key, our health goes down. If I hit the 2 key, our stamina is going down. If I hit my 3 key, we start filling up the sustenance bar, and if we hit the 4 key, we do the same thing for energy, and then okie dokie. So let's go ahead and make sure that we can interact with we can save and load our data within our components. So to do that, we're going to need to do 2 things. We're going to need to create a save game slot within our system, within our game code. So first off, we're going to come up here. Let's go ahead and create a new folder called save. course, it's got to be like that, no spaces. Open up the folder, and we'll create a blueprint. Now we'll come down to all classes, and if this is minimized for you, all you have to do is just click on the little triangle, open it up, and then just say save game, and we'll just use the save game and hit select, and we'll call this BP save game instance. So this will be the instance of the game that we're saving. So what we need to do is so now we've got the save game instance of the save game object. So now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and open this up, and so we'll go ahead and just add under variables a variable on which we want to save all that data to when we save it. So it's so we'll call it character vitals, and we'll come down here and we'll say, and there it is, character vitals. So that's our structure that we defined, and just to recap, that's this structure right here. So our goal is to save this structure, and in doing so we'll be saving our core vital structures as well. This will all get serialized to the disk when we go ahead and save it. So in order for this to work, we have to make this public, and we'll say expose on spawn as well, just to keep things consistent. So that's set up there. So then let's come back to our BP class. And so next up, what we need to do is we need to go ahead and create a name slot. Oh, let's go ahead and set up the keys first. So I'm going to create another couple of debug keys. And we'll put this on debug key 8, why not? And while I'm here, I'll just set up another one. 9. So 8 will be saving, 9 will be loading. So, okay, so in order to do a save, we've created our blueprint object to save to. So the first thing we're going to do is when we press this key, we're going to say we need to go ahead and create that save object. So to do that, we just say create save game object. We'll come down here, and there it is, BP save game instance. And then from there, we'll go ahead, drag it out. We'll say promote to variable and give it a name. And then from there, we need to go ahead and take the data that is currently in our core vitals slot. So we'll come down here, and then we'll say get character vitals, and we'll use the function to do that. So this is actually going to return a copy of our structure. And then what we do here is we're going to say set character vitals, which is the value which is in our save slot, and we're just going to go ahead and save those vitals into there. So next thing we need to do is we need to then go ahead and actually save this, to the file system. So to do that, we need to give it a slot. Every slot needs to have a slot name. So what I like to do is I like to actually create a variable that if it's going to be a slot, which is going to be a constant. So we'll call this save slot, and that save slot needs to be a string, and we need to then go ahead and give it a name. So we'll call it save slot 1, just for what we're doing here. So there's two ways we can actually save this. So if I bring out our save game instance. So I'm going to say get, and then I'm going to say, so there's two ways we can save it. We can either save it asynchronously or synchronously, and this is if we want to use the synchronous slot, this is a good way to do it if you're using say you're saving from a menu, right? Or you're doing an exit save. This will block block any of the threads that we're currently using, so it'll allow the game to actually save before it allows anything else to execute after it. But if you're kind of, another way to do this would be using the asynchronous, and that's what we're going to do here. Since I'm going to be hitting a key within the game itself, and I still want the game to continue while it's saving, this will allow us to save data in the background. So if you had auto saves, or if you've got an MMO game and you're just constantly doing save updates of the character, saving the updated character information, then this is the one you want, so that it won't block any threads. It'll do it on, in the background as the character plays. So we'll run this one. So we'll say get slots, we'll slot name, and then what we need to do is actually, we want that there. I'm just going to go that's the slot. I don't need the world context object. Why is it giving me that? There we go, that's the one I want. Save game slot, and there's the slot name. We don't need to worry about the user index, leave it 0. And then what we'll do is on complete, we'll just print string, and we'll just say and we'll give it a different color just so we can kind of see it. And that's it. And so that's pretty much going to save it in the background every time I hit the key. So next up, we want to be able to reload it. So what we'll then do is we'll come here, and then when we press the 9 key, we'll reload. So we'll say load game from slot. We'll go ahead and drag this and take the slot, put that in there. And then we'll get the return value, and we'll need to cast to BP save game instance. So we get, and then from there we can then from here we'll say get character vitals, and then we can come back up to our core vitals up here, and we can then say set character vitals, and we'll run it on that function here. So that should now hook up our saving and loading. So let's go ahead and move this over here, and we'll go ahead and hit play. Data's moving. We'll go ahead and just make this look a little different. Now I'm going to hit the 8 key to hit to save it, and it said save it. And now let's go ahead and reload it, and as you can see, the variables are coming back from their saved state. And that's it. So that's pretty much implementing our core vitals component for our character. That's helping to manage our stamina, our health, our sustenance and energy in this example. So that concludes part 2 of my tutorial on building a core vitals management component for your character. If you've made it to the end of my video, I thank you for it, and feel free to like, share and subscribe to my channel, and I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.